What's up, y'all? Sparta here. What I want to do is I want to detail a little bit of some early findings when it comes to the telephoto performance on the Xiaomi 13 Ultra. Now, as you guys can probably hear, it's very windy out, and this is going to be a very important factor in this little comparison here. So, be careful here. Be a little bit careful here. And also Xiaomi for the 14 Ultra, no more curved screen. That's another thing. It makes it far harder to handle when it doesn't need to be more difficult to handle. So, I want to talk about the overall photographic quality of what comes out of the 13 Ultra's telephoto. So I'm going to bring up two of the same photo, and I'm going to show you guys here what the 13 Ultra does and what the Xperia 1 Mark III does. So, as you guys can probably not see all that well, I'm gonna just be honest. There is a good amount of detail still. There's a good amount of detail. I'm not gonna hark on that. I think the background blur is very nice, though it does look a little bit motion. Well, obviously there's motion because it's windy out. As you guys can see, there's a good amount of motion. A lot of things aren't overblown. Because in a lot of these cases, especially when you have phones with smaller telephoto sensors, details will get overblown. And due to this having a larger telephoto lens, it's not. And to me, that's very nice, and I really do like that a lot. There are a couple things that I do want to talk about when it comes to other photos, and overall the colors are very nice. I do shoot primarily in Leica Authentic and not Leica Vibrant, so even for me shooting in Leica Authentic, I feel that looks very nice, and it kind of looks it pretty much looks like the colors are punched up a little bit, but it's tasteful. It's not to the point where I would say it's because Leica Vibrant, what it does is it punches up kind of almost to Samsung levels, and to me that's just not what I like. And the other differences between Leica Authentic and Leica Vibrant are, in Leica Authentic you'll see slight vignetting in the corners of the frame. People don't like that. Honestly, I do. Honestly, I don't mind it, and I honestly kind of like it. It kind of gives it this photographic style that I like. And in a lot of photos that I do, like say when I edit photos for like phone wallpapers or whatever, I will do slight vignetting just so I can darken the corners of the picture so that, it looks a little bit more pronounced. But that's neither here nor there. I really do like how this looks. It looks nice and detailed, no problems there. And you can see other things like more details in the leaf behind it are a little bit more out of focus, and the focus fall off is very nice. This is how you can tell the difference between a portrait photo, like taken with a portrait mode of a phone's camera, and the natural focus fall off of a phone's camera. As you can see, everything in the foreground is nice and focused. Things in the behind it, not too far behind it, are very much still a little bit in focus, but out of focus enough to where it's not distracting anything from the main subject. And in the back, everything is creamy. Everything is creamy and smooth, and to me that's very nice. Even down to like this little flower, part of the flower right there too. To me that's very nice. Now obviously you get this weird, I wouldn't call it weird, but it's kind of weird because obviously the tree was moving. Background blur on the tree, but to me that's totally fine. On the Xperia, you get this. Now, I will say the Xperia does a pretty damn good job at maintaining detail. It really does. Like, that's a lot of very good detail. Some of it might be a little bit over sharpened, but to me it's tasteful, and it doesn't like make it to where the image becomes too grainy, right? And as you can see throughout, the details are there. The colors are more natural, the more flat, but not flat to the point where I think it takes away from the image. And to me, that's something that's very important. As you guys can see here, when it comes to the same leaf, more of it is in focus, more of it is pronounced. And you see kind of here in this back leaf here, there's a little bit of graininess. Now, obviously, that's because of the size of the sensor. It's not really something I'm going to fault Sony for. And as you guys can see, very similarly, the leaf behind this same plant is also pretty well out of focus. Now, comparing the two, I will say that obviously obviously this gets more, the screen on this gets more bright, so it's easier to see, but the focus fall off is far better on here. It's far smoother, in my opinion, far more smooth. So to me, that's very nice. And what I do like, though, is I do like Sony's, like, their background blur is actually pretty tasteful as well. Now, what I do feel is that when you do a little bit more farther zoom, when you do the AI super resolution zoom on the One Mark III, when you employ it, and you'll be able to tell when you employ it, it does go into a plant portrait mode. So it's very difficult to tell whether or not it's natural focus or not natural focus, but from what I've been able to see, it's not natural focus. And what I don't like about what a lot of reviewers do is that they utilize phone photos. I don't know why I said that. They utilize photos from a phone, and they'll put one image up and they'll be like, oh, this is from the Xperia 1 Mark V. Oh, and then look at the lack of background blur from the separation. Look at the lack of separation of the background and the foreground and the base subject, right? And then they bring up an iPhone 14 Pro Max. And I know I've talked about this a little bit before. And you can clearly see that the phone deployed a fucking portrait mode. Or at the very least, if Apple doesn't auto-deploy that shit, the reviewer deployed a portrait mode. And you can clearly see by how everything behind the subject is uniformly blurred out. What I like about both of these is that I think what Sony does very well is that they blur out. It kind of feels like it's a mixture. It's very weird because I feel like they do a very good job at making the background definitely a little bit more smooth. And if they do deploy some sort of software background blur, I do feel like this is probably my favorite implementation of it, because it still feels like there's some depth to the image. Whereas in a lot of other cases, there's not depth to the image because they'll sit there and some things in the foreground will get chopped off in the portrait mode and all this extra stuff. But in terms of these two portrait mode photos, I feel like both of these did a very good job here. A very good job. And let me tell you, on the One Mark III, Sony's focusing game is unparalleled. It's unparalleled, legitimately. The wind was blowing like a it was blowing. I'm gonna just say that. And I took this photo as it was swaying back towards the camera. And it just goes to show you how clean and clear this image is, how good the One Mark III's focusing still is. I may like a lot of photographic qualities more on the 13 Ultra. I'm not gonna sit here and lie about that. But in terms of the overall speed and accuracy of what Sony gives you, it's freaking crazy, man. It's freaking crazy. But let's get into the next photo here. Let's get into the next one. Now, due to the fact that these telephotos have different focal lengths, it's kind of hard to match up what the overall zoom and all that and whatnot. But as you guys can see, the leaves aren't blown out really all that much, and the ones that are in the background and they don't really matter and they're out of focus. And to me, that's nice. This took at least 5 different shots to finally get this to work because the wind was blowing so hard. And it honestly made me want to give up. But overall though, I do feel like it did a very good job. It kept the main 3, I don't know what they're supposed to be, main 3 fruit here in focus, and this one is kind of out of focus, as you can see. And to me, that's very nice. Now, obviously, there's a couple overblown highlights and whatnot, but obviously it's in the background, so I really don't care at that point. If it's not the main focus of the photo, it's not something I really care about. Now, 1 Mark III. It definitely did a better job at making sure that the leaves weren't overexposed. Now, the details on the fruit here is definitely softer. It's definitely more soft. But it does a very good job at making sure that they're in focus. And obviously the colors are more flat because it's Sony, right? That's kind of what you expect. But the overall background, the blur in the background and all this other stuff is very nice. It's very well implemented. This one is a little bit more in focus compared to the other ones. I don't know why, but overall, very similar story. This only took 1 shot though. Same with the other one. Those 2 pictures only took 1 shot. On that other one, I took different shots with different sensors. I took one with the main sensor, one with the 2 telephotos and all that other stuff. And when I took it with the 5X telephoto, it had no problem for that initial photo that I showed you guys. But for this, there was definitely more trouble. And that is kind of sad. It's not that big of a deal though. And I really do wish that they would give you a manual focus toggle in the auto mode. I really do. It doesn't make sense to me in the year 2023 that no one other than LG has really given a manual focus toggle in the auto mode. It doesn't make sense to me. With these large sensor phones now, this is something that we really do need. And especially if you're going to put larger sensors on the companion sensors as well. To me, that's something that is very important, and it's something that I really do want. It's like, this phone is basically a camera. So give me that. That's all I really want. You get manual focus on regular cameras, on on lenses that allow you to do it or whatnot. Give me a manual focus slider on the auto mode. It would be very nice, Xiaomi, if you're even listening. But yeah, so far, this goes to show you, and this really made me want to get a 1 Mark V, because I was debating Sony Xperia 5 Mark V or 1 Mark V. I want that telephoto. Sony, I don't know what Sony did, what black magic, and not talking about the camera company, they're working here. But in terms of their telephoto game, in terms of this thing here that people were like, oh, it doesn't do space zoom and all this extra shit, right? It does a very good job at putting out a photo that's nice looking and usable, and that's in focus. and that you could almost always use the first photo you take from it instantly. So to me, that's very nice. I wish more phone manufacturers would copy what Sony is doing with that. Now, obviously, Sony's doing something different. They're doing more of what they're doing with like their newest cameras, where they're doing more AI autofocus now on the One Mark V. But whatever. That's all I really want to say about this. This is all I really want to get into. This is part of Thanks for watching. Thanks for support. Hope you guys have a wonderful Saturday, whatever time of day it is in the area. Like the video if you like it. Dislike it if you dislike it. Share with people that are interested in this sort of content, and have a good one.